There is a word so simple that most people ignore it. A word that can save your relationships, protect your peace, preserve your health, and keep you from destroying a life that was already good. That word is enough. The strange thing about life is that most of our suffering comes from not knowing when we have reached it. Sometimes we keep chasing long after we should have stopped. Other times we keep tolerating long after we should have walked away. And the difference between fulfillment and misery often comes down to one question. Do you know what enough looks like? Today, I want to explore this single word that can completely transform the way you see your life. Because enough is not about settling, it's about balance. Hi, this is Wisdom Sister. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm here to haunt you, but in a fun and friendly way, so you can become the best version of yourself. Let's continue. Let's start with the first danger. The belief that more is always better. More money, more status, more achievements, more followers, more productivity, more everything. Our culture treats ambition like a sacred virtue. And don't get me wrong, ambition is wonderful. Without ambition, nobody builds businesses, writes books, gets in shape, or changes the world. But ambition has a dark side that nobody talks about. Ambition without limits becomes addiction. Psychologists refer to something called the hedonic treadmill. The idea is simple. You achieve something that you wanted for years. You feel amazing for about 3 days. Then your brain adapts. Suddenly, your new normal feels ordinary. The salary increase becomes expected. The dream house becomes just a house. The luxury car becomes transportation. The achievement that once kept you awake at night becomes something you barely think about. And you run again because now you need the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Imagine someone who has a loving family, a comfortable home, good friends, financial stability, reasonable health, freedom. Objectively speaking, they have a wonderful life, but internally, they're miserable because they spend every day comparing themselves to someone who has more, someone richer, more attractive, more successful, more famous, more accomplished. And so they live in a permanent state of dissatisfaction. Not because their life is bad, but because they never stop to ask, at what point will I consider this enough? Without that answer, life becomes an endless race with no finish line. And the cruel joke is that you can win every race and still feel like you're losing. There's a fascinating psychological tendency called the arrival fallacy. It's the belief that happiness exists on the other side of your next achievement. If I get promoted, if I lose 20 pounds, if I reach 6 figures, if I buy the house, if I find the relationship, then I'll finally be happy. But when you arrive, the happiness never lasts as long as you expected, because the goal wasn't the problem. The assumption was. You were expecting an achievement to provide something that only perspective can provide. You were looking for enough in places where enough cannot exist. Imagine you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. At first, you're hungry. The food is incredible. You enjoy every bite. Then something strange happens. You stop eating because you're hungry and start eating because the food is available. You tell yourself, one more plate, then another, then dessert, then another dessert. Then somehow you are negotiating with cheesecake like you're closing a business merger. At that point, the buffet stopped improving your life and it started ruining your evening. Life works exactly the same way. Many people aren't pursuing more because more improves their lives. They're pursuing more because they forgot how to recognize enough. Now, let's talk about the opposite mistake. Here's where things get even more interesting because the opposite problem is just as dangerous. Some people never know when they have enough. Not in ambition, in suffering. They stay in situations they should have left years ago. Relationships, friendships, jobs, business partnerships, habits. They continue long after the evidence suggests that it's time to move on. Psychologists call this the sunk cost fallacy. It's one of the most expensive mental mistakes that we can make. You already invested time, money, energy, emotion, so you keep investing. Not because the situation is good, but because you already invested so much. It's like watching a terrible movie for 2 hours and thinking, well, I already watched most of it. So you stay for the final hour. Congratulations, now you wasted 3 hours instead of 2. Sometimes enough means I explain myself enough. I tried enough. I sacrificed enough. I waited enough. I tolerated enough. And perhaps the hardest one, I hoped enough. Many people confuse endurance with the strength, but endurance is only admirable when there's something worth enduring. Staying in a burning building is not resilience, it's poor judgment. At some point, wisdom demands an exit. Here's the deeper issue. Enough forces us to confront uncertainty. If we stop chasing, what if we miss something greater? If we leave, what if things improve tomorrow? If we stay content, what if we're capable of more? If we walk away, what if we're making a mistake? The human brain hates uncertainty, so it prefers extremes, endless striving or endless tolerating, because both allow us to postpone difficult decisions. Enough requires courage. It demands clarity. It asks us to draw a line. And drawing lines means accepting trade-offs. The goal is not to become less ambitious. The goal is not to become more tolerant. The goal is to become more discerning. You should absolutely pursue growth, but not at the expense of gratitude. You should absolutely persevere, but not at the expense of self-respect. You should build, but know when to stop and start enjoying what you have built. You should fight, but know when the battle is no longer worth fighting. The healthiest people understand both truths simultaneously. There are things worth pursuing relentlessly, and there are things worth living immediately. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Now, let's have a practical test. Whenever you're facing an important decision, ask yourself 2 questions. First, am I destroying something good because I keep demanding more? And second, am I tolerating something harmful because I'm afraid to say enough? Those 2 questions alone can prevent years of unnecessary suffering. Most people spend their lives trapped between greed and tolerance, always wanting more or accepting too much, never realizing that both mistakes comes from the same place, a failure to understand the meaning of enough. Because enough isn't a number, it isn't a salary, it isn't a relationship status, it isn't a milestone, it's a boundary, a conscious decision, a declaration that says, this is worth protecting, or this is no longer worth enduring. And perhaps one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning when to say both. The quality of your life will often depend less on what you pursue and more on whether you recognize a moment when more stops helping and staying stops serving. Because sometimes the most powerful word in the world isn't more, it's enough. And today, ask yourself, where in your life are you chasing beyond enough? And where have you tolerated far beyond enough? Your answer may change everything. Remember, my goal as a life coach is to help you design the best life possible through the ideas and insights that we explore here. I want these videos to feel real, organic, and honest, without unnecessary addition or distractions. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. For one-on-one coaching, find more information in the description box. See you in the next video.